Good morning, Crosspoint. Good to be with you again. Hope that you are doing well this morning. We got the whole day in front of us. I'm actually filming right now out in front of my garage, roughing it here, missing the sunshine. I hope it comes back. But at any rate, I want to talk with you about just maybe two announcements and then a book that I have read and that I want to recommend to you and share an excerpt with you. The two announcements. Number one, this coming Sunday will be the first Sunday in May. So our rhythm as a church family is that the first Sunday of the month we celebrate the Lord's table. So we'll be doing communion. And so I just want to encourage you to have your elements ready when we get going. Have them at your bedside if you are reclining in your bed or at the table or at your chair. So just have some elements ready, some bread and some grape juice or whatever beverage you happen to have on hand. The Lord's fine with whatever, just as we remember his death. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're well underway with our note writing campaign. At least I guess we've put a little more meat on the bones. So the first notes went out today. Kelly has the script. Our secretary, Kelly Brown, she's got the script, she's got cards, envelopes, and postage, and addresses if you need any help. So she will hook you up with that. Again, encouragement is to write 5 notes a day for a week or a business week. So each individual, if you are able to write 25 notes, and these are handwritten notes that we're sending out to the neighborhood behind us, just letting them know that we're caring for them, that we're praying for them, and inviting them to join us on our online services. So again, contact Kelly Brown, church number, or at office at crosspointac.org if you need more details. But really want to encourage you to jump on and let's be a part of an outreach initiative. It'd be a great way to connect with people outside our fellowship. Okay, so those are the two announcements. I want to talk to you about a book, one of my favorite books of all time, outside of the Bible, that is. This book is entitled The Confessions of St. Augustine, or Augustine as some call it. One of my favorite books. Augustine was living around the mid-300s to the early 400s, probably one of the premier theologians in the Western Church recognizes and celebrates. As a young man, he was not a Christian. His mother was, his father was not. He grew up in Algeria, what would be known modern-day Algeria. Then it was Numidia. But his mother, Monica, prayed for him and prayed for him and prayed for him and prayed for him. He viewed her faith more as kind of an old wives' tale when he was growing up. But eventually he did become a Christian, and when he did, he really pressed into Jesus and sought the Lord with all of his heart and gave him all of the skills and the abilities that God had given him, gave him back to Jesus, and was used greatly to advance the kingdom of God here on earth. I think it was the Vandals. I don't know if the Goths or Vandals or if they're even the same group, but when the Germanic tribes swept through northern Africa as they were taking over the Roman Empire, they left him alone. They did not sack his library because they heard he was a holy man, so he was spared, and so because of that probably we have some of his writings. But his Confessions is his biography, his story. One of the main things I like about the Confessions of St. Augustine are that even though the man has been blessed by God with brilliance, he is very childlike in the telling of his story, very worshipful posture, just a striking dependence upon the Lord that comes out that is so sweet and endearing in his story, and is brutally honest about his own passions, about his own struggles. Very, very transparent and helpful. As a fellow believer, I find his writings very helpful in the pursuit of God myself because of his honesty and transparency. So in chapter 1, I want to read maybe a sentence or two that is well known by Augustine. By the way, this is an Eastern Press copy of the Confessions. If you're going to get a physical copy, which in these days I don't get many physical copies, and if I do, I'm going to get a good copy if I can, some kind of a hardback, but that's just my thing, my preference. But in chapter 1 of his Confessions, he says, "You have formed us for yourself talking to God. You have formed us for yourself, and our hearts are restless till they find rest in you. And this is probably one of the more well-known quotes. I've actually shared it from the pulpit at Crosspoint. I don't know if you remember, but the idea of our hearts being restless until they find rest in God. I don't know how often, and he's talking from a broad perspective, of course, but I don't know at a personal level, more times than I care to admit, my heart is in an agitated or a restless state. And I was in a restless state even yesterday, and probably last week, was just mulling some things over, and I didn't realize it, but all of a sudden there was like an agitation that was bubbling up and really manifesting itself yesterday, and I finally got to the bottom of it, and there was a matter that I was trying to control and could not. And so the inability to control a small aspect of the universe was driving me crazy. And I had to take it back to Jesus and give it to him, and I realized that I couldn't control it. And in that sense, when I finally gave it to him, he took away that agitation and that restless state. So I don't know where you're at today, but if if there's some kind of an anxiety or maybe a restlessness to your spirit, I want to encourage you just to give that to Jesus and let him take over. More times than not, the restlessness comes about because we're not able to control something, and that's manifests itself in a restlessness. So at any rate, that's a thought for this morning. Lord willing, I will see you Sunday morning, screen to screen.